In 2019, a company that rented out desks was worth $47 billion. Not a chip designer. Not a search engine. A company that signed a lease on an office building, put in some glass walls and free beer, and rented the space back out to freelancers by the month. Its founder was a 6'5" Israeli named Adam Neumann, who walked around barefoot, drank tequila in meetings, and told everyone, with a completely straight face, that his office rental startup was going to elevate the world's consciousness. And the strange thing is, a lot of very serious people believed him. The most powerful investor on the planet, a Japanese billionaire named Masayoshi Son, handed Neumann more than $10 billion and told him, essentially, to think bigger and get crazier. For a moment, WeWork was the most valuable startup in America, about to pull off the hottest public offering of the year. 6 weeks later, it was worth less than a fifth of that. The offering was dead, and Neumann had been thrown out of his own company, with a payout north of $1 billion for the trouble. This is Flatline. Gloves on. Every week I haul one dead company onto the slab and tell you what actually stopped the heart, not the tidy obituary, the real thing. Tonight we open up WeWork. And I promise you, the killer is not the one the headlines named. First, you have to understand how big this thing got, because it sounds insane in hindsight. WeWork started in 2010 with one renovated building in downtown Manhattan. The pitch was simple and honestly pretty good. Office space is expensive and rigid, so let us take the long lease and the risk, and you rent a beautiful desk from us 1 month at a time. Then it caught fire. Within a few years, WeWork had hundreds of locations in dozens of countries and became the single largest private office tenant in Manhattan, and then in London. But it wasn't selling desks, not according to Neumann. It was a tech company. A community. A physical social network. A movement. There was a We Live for apartments, a We Grow for a private elementary school, run by his wife, talk of WeBank and WeSale. The offices had kombucha on tap and neon signs that told you to do what you love. And investors didn't value it like a landlord. Landlords are boring and worth maybe 1 times their revenue. They valued it like a Silicon Valley rocket ship, at 26 times revenue. On paper, this desk rental company was worth more than Ford. So how does a $47 billion darling implode in about a month? Ask most people and you'll get one answer. The crazy founder. Adam Neumann. The tequila, the barefoot Messiah act, the ego. He was reckless, he was ridiculous, and when the company tried to go public, the world finally saw through him, and the whole thing popped. And look, the founder really was all of those things. But that's the lazy version, and it mistakes the symptom for the disease. Because Neumann didn't build that $47 billion number by himself, alone in a room. Somebody handed him the money that inflated it. Somebody needed him to be exactly this reckless. To understand how WeWork really died, you have to stop looking at the crazy guy on the stage and look at who was writing the checks. You have to look at the money. The money had a name, SoftBank, and its founder Masayoshi Son. Son ran the largest technology investment fund in history, a $100 billion war chest called the Vision Fund, and he was hunting for founders crazy enough to swing for $1 trillion future. The legend goes that Son met Neumann, gave him 12 minutes, then invited him into his car and told him that in a fight, the smart guy doesn't win, the crazy guy wins. And WeWork, he said, wasn't being crazy enough. He wanted it bigger, faster, 10 times the size. Then he wired in billions, and this is the part that actually did the killing. That torrent of money didn't fund a business. It funded a story. To justify a tech valuation, WeWork had to grow at a speed a real estate company should never grow, signing enormous 15-year leases in every city on Earth while renting that space out by the month. Long, unbreakable commitments on one side, customers who could walk away in 30 days on the other. Every new location lost money, so the fix was to open more of them, faster, and light the losses on fire in the name of growth. In 2018, the company lost nearly $2 billion, on under $2 billion in revenue. It was burning almost $1 for every dollar it took in. And SoftBank's money made that look like a strategy instead of a bonfire, And because nobody was really allowed to say no to Neumann, the whole thing curdled. When WeWork finally had to open its books to go public, the paperwork read like a confession. There was a made-up metric, community-adjusted EBITDA, which basically meant profit if you ignored most of the costs. Neumann had personally bought stakes in buildings and then leased them back to WeWork. He was his own landlord, collecting rent from his own company. He trademarked the word "we" and sold it to WeWork for nearly $6 million. He'd cashed out something like $700 million of his own stock before the public was ever invited in. He had special shares that gave him 20 votes each so no one could remove him, and a clause naming his wife among those who'd pick his successor if he died. Investors read all of this out loud in public and did the math the private money had refused to do. In a matter of weeks, the $47 billion valuation collapsed toward $8. The IPO was yanked. The banks fled, and SoftBank, staring at a total loss, had to seize the wheel, pushing Neumann out and paying him a roughly $1.7 billion package to leave the building he'd built. He failed his way to a fortune. WeWork itself limped onto the stock market through a back door in 2021, and by November 2023, it filed for bankruptcy. Now for the finding, the line I'd actually write on the certificate. It does not say crazy founder, cross that out. Adam Neumann was the fever, not the infection. What killed WeWork is that it was a real estate company that got paid a king's ransom to pretend it was a technology company, and the pretending was the whole product. The money didn't back a business, it backed a story, and then demanded the business grow fast enough to keep the story alive. A landlord dressed up as a rocket ship, funded by people who needed the costume to be real because their own returns depended on the fantasy. When you strip out the kombucha, and the consciousness and the neon WeWork sublet office space, and lost money doing it, there was nothing underneath the story, but a very long, very expensive lease. So here's the scar to keep. Be careful of any company whose most valuable product is its own valuation. When easy money floods in chasing a fairy tale, it doesn't build a stronger business, it builds a better costume, and it punishes anyone who points out there's no one inside it. A fire hose of cash can keep a corpse looking flushed and healthy, right up until the moment someone insists on taking its pulse in public. We've got a whole ward of them now. Kodak clutched its film. Blockbuster clung to its late fees. Nokia married its keyboard. BlackBerry fell in love with being right. Toys R Us got bled dry by its owners. MySpace rented out its own crowd. Yahoo never decided what it was. Sears got handed to a mad scientist. And WeWork was a landlord in a prophet's clothing, kept warm by a river of money that needed it to be a miracle, until the day the market asked it to simply be a business. It couldn't. See you in the next autopsy.